Hey guys, my name is Kendrick, and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I'm interviewing Raja. And what's your last name, Raja?
Burrows.
Raja Burrows. All right. And so, Raja, you are an INTJ. And
Yes.
what is your exact op type?
So I'm an INTJ in the loosest sense of the word.
Yeah.
So I'm NITE lead blast. So first function is NI, but I'm blast, play, consume, missing sleep.
Yes.
So I am like I am not only the most cranked up an INTJ can possibly get,
Yeah.
I am more cranked up than lots and lots and lots of ENTJs, which I thought I was for a really long time, and I think debatably still am in strictly Myers-Briggs land. Like if we're talking Myers-Briggs 16, I'm just not an INTJ. I'm just not. Like based on their definition of the term is based on the literature in the community, based on what they're tracking. So much of the I has to do with sleep energy
Yes.
that it being last in a lot of ways, I think precludes me from calling myself a Myers-Briggs INTJ.
Yes.
But an objective personality, 100%, again, based on what they're tracking.
I think the problem with the Myers-Briggs is that they have a description.
Mm-hmm.
It is accurate for
Sure.
1 out of the 32. You know.
Sure.
So
Sure. And look, I'm definitely. Look, I came from the Myers-Briggs community. I've been in the Myers-Briggs community since about 2011-ish,
Yeah.
2011, 2012. That's when I sort of learned about it and use it as a tool for self-discovery, self-growth. Incidentally, as I mentioned before, the original Dave Superpowers channel was one of my first introductions to the personality community. So, and I've written articles and done all the things. So I just think it's interesting that we have his foundation was in a lot of ways my foundation for the strengths and weaknesses of Myers-Briggs, and then we diverged. He sort of did his own thing in the scientific route. I went much more in the sort of fantasy philosophical route,
right.
In my studies of it. And then we both came back in 2018 and we're like, so the hero's journey is a thing. We're like, oh, you, right? Like the Spider-Man pointing meme is what it felt like.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. You know what? I talk to Austin Aller a lot, right? And
Sure.
The exact type as you, except that he's double feminine and you're masculine feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not the same type.
Yeah. Well, that's why I want to ask you, what is it like to be like a masculine feminine?
Man, can I swear on this channel? Is this a PG-13 rated channel?
No, it's rated R. You can drop all the F-bombs, anything inappropriate.
Fucking awesome. It is the greatest fucking thing in the world.
Yeah.
So incidentally, when Shay first typed me, they I got typed way back in the day. This was before the class had been up for a month. There was a little Q&A, a couple of the videos. So I was basically getting typed blind without even really understanding, and again, this is back in April. There was not a lot of literature out there that they had published about what their system did. It was just in its very, very infancy of being presented to the public. And I almost said to them in my blurb, I was like, I don't want to influence you, I don't want to bias you, but I promise you, I am I have savior kinesthetic somewhere. Kinesthetic is an enormous part of my life. But I didn't say anything. They typed me as double feminine. And I wrote back and I was like, I am down with everything you said. Nothing surprised me. You are incorrect about me not being kinesthetic. You're just wrong. And in our back and forth, I presented what I was doing, and because I filmed it in this this little WeWork phone booth, you couldn't see my physicality. We talk about the hard hands. I have the claw hands, right?
You have the rapper hands?
Yes, absolutely. Again, if you can, right, this is, right? So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do the body shot, right? So if you were to hear me talk, like I do this all the time, and I'm really choppy and sort of like, you know, little hellions, kids feeling rebellious, embarrassed. The parents still listen to Elvis. They start feeling like prison has helped us. So coming along on a mission, yells, "Bitch!"
Yeah.
Right? It's very, right. It's a thing that double feminine just isn't.
Well, I saw your gold chain, so I already knew that you were.
Yeah, this is actually
yeah.
it's
Okay.
It's not a gold chain. This is.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a gold chain. I was like, yeah.
No.
Yeah, like I already knew you were a rapper.
No. It's my little rose quartz mala.
Okay.
It's my attempt to earnestly respect my NF. Right. So it's really funny because so many people previously in the doc, celebrity-wise, a bunch of people in the class get typed as double feminine. Weirdly, like there's a big cluster, whatever. And a lot of people in the class and outside the class, whatever, they're like, oh, you guys are similar type. Like, you guys are basically the same type. And I'm like, I have more in common with a double masculine somebody of my type than I do with anybody with feminine sensor. Like, because and look, there are a lot of different layers to my particular 512, with the double activated masculinity at the bottom. But like, there's a punchiness and like a really intense, archetypally masculine physicality that I have, but I have it very much in a demon state. Right? So you'll see it come out of me kind of in a similar way that you might see it come out of Eminem.
Oh, I see.
Because he also has that double, so he's double masculine, but he has that masculine SE at the bottom.
Right.
That he respects, function stack-wise, that he respects the least, but that he's hyper conscious of. And honestly, it caused me a lot of turmoil throughout all of my 20s.
How so?
All of my, yeah.
I mean,
right? Because like when I was a little kid, what's that? Go ahead.
I mean, how did this turmoil manifest itself?
So, in a number of different ways. So look, when I was a teenager, again, I don't know what the people know about me. So I'm an actor. I did musical theater for a while. I played the guitar for a while. I still obviously do play the guitar. But, being in that arts community, there is a preponderance of feminine energy, right? A lot of women, huge LGBTQ community in the arts, right? And just sort of culturally, because it's a collaborative art form, it's a very, even outside the language of OP, it's a very feminine, accommodating, swooshy sort of vibe, right? And that's just true anytime you're collaborating, I think, regardless of what it is you're doing. And so when I started my career, all in on the saviors, right, 15, 16, yes, this, my feminine NI, my feminine TE, blasting through the world, being real accommodating, taking things as it come, and not really worrying about the sensory, right, and not worrying about too much about the facts. And also my own physicality, right, and just like the way that I naturally carry myself in the world, the way I want to carry myself physically in the world, right? It's in a very, I'm going to say macho way, right? Just like my body feels its best when it's muscular and like broad-shouldered and stable and like punching the things, right? Like that's like physically what that is what my corporeal physical self wants to do. Well, that's really tough to bring that kind of energy into a room where you are expected, where the cultural expectation is to be really yielding, to be really warm. And it's even tougher when that's you in a demon state, right? And so I was in this state of like going all in on my saviors, being rewarded for my feminine NI and my feminine TE, right? Being rewarded for that, certainly for that behavior, but also just that the modality. Like, I was getting so many pats on the head from the tribe members for being this, very flowy feminine kind of person, which I am in so many ways. But then what would happen is I would have these demon swings of like aggressive machismo that would come out at the worst times because that's just how demons work when you repress them, right? And it was very sensory. It was a really visceral energy, which is fine, great, cool, whatever. But if you don't know it's coming and you can't account for it, and it's like this thing that you try to repress aggressively, when it comes out, you're like, oh, not only is this unexpected, it's bad. And it actually like harms my relationships. Thank God, look, I've never harmed any property. I've never harmed any people physically. Like, I've never done any of that, thank God. But that energy is just a thing that would come out sometimes. And so, but it was something I was like, I am really conscious of this demon. And the way that I had to understand it for myself and sort of reframe this. This happened when I was 20, was when I became conscious of that last function. Was to be like, okay, I didn't obviously have the OP language. I was like, okay, this part of me, this very physical, sensory, sensual, emotional, SEFI, macho dude, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
He's just going to be my new best friend. That's just how it's going to be. Because right now, she's terrible and I hate her. And so she has to be my best friend. And then over the course of 13 years, probably, that side of myself has like really flourished and blossomed. And now, honestly, my masculine SE is the part of myself that I love the most, that I'm the proudest of, that I rely on to get me through kind of any sort of difficulty in life. It really does feel like a blessing to have it.
So basically, you're Bruce Banner and you have the Hulk living inside you. And you have to learn, like, I don't know if you saw Avengers 4, but...
Yes, wait, hang on, I gotta pause because there might be, right, it's not quite early enough, or it's not quite late enough, I don't want spoilers. But
no,
yes,
I'm not going to say any spoilers, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and that is absolutely it.
Yes,
the thing, right, with, okay, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic, we're right on the same page.
Exactly, yeah, that's what I was thinking when you were saying that. I was like, oh, Avengers 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it very much, and again, look, I didn't consciously have that happen. Yeah. And obviously, like, I'm not friends with Mark Ruffalo. Like, I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But they're like seeing that archetype in the most recent Avengers movie in Endgame.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, there really is something like collective unconscious about this.
Yeah.
Right, and it really is something that transcends everything. I was like, okay, well, this is clearly something human conditioning that we're tapping into. So that's rad. Yeah,
it was a really good, I think, explanation of. I think a lot of people experience this, by the way. I don't think it's just you. And
no, oh God, no, no. Look, if you're human, you experience it.
Yeah, and a lot of people turn to a Hulk-like person out of nowhere, and they don't even know it, and it causes a lot of chaos.
Yes.
Around them. So
no, I love the Hulk.
Yeah.
I think the Hulk is, look, I'm not a major comic book guy, but like archetypally, I totally get what the Hulk story is trying to tell.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool.
So dude, so that's how your masculine SE manifests itself then.
Yeah.
Now in terms of your masculine SE though, have you had any major tidal waves in your life as a result of not using it enough early on?
Here's what I'm going to say. One thing that I've said just about glass lizards in general, that, Shade's talked about this as well.
Yes.
if you are a glass lizard, in the sense of having a double activated last function,
Right.
right? So that your missing animal is connected to your first function. Okay.
Yeah.
Or your first function connected to your missing animal, however you want to put it. Our tidal waves are just not going to look like kind of anybody else's tidal waves.
Mm-hmm.
Because, so I'm, throw out somebody like Ty Lopez, right? So somebody like Ty Lopez, he's like a very standard Myers-Briggs INTJ, OP INTJ. He's got that lead blast, missing consume. Cool. He's going to be able to go a lot farther with his saviors than I ever could. So I'm never going to experience a tidal wave of like 90-10 or like a 99-1 that's going to completely incapacitate me for that's just not going to happen, because my body will never let it get that bad. Right? And
Right.
even when I do experience what I would consider tidal waves or big moments of like, whew, all right, we just got to respect the sensory now, it doesn't feel as emotionally risky. Right? It doesn't feel like, I think it was Jessica McCabe in one of her recent videos, she talked about like what she calls like the wall of awful.
Yes.
Right. And so, for those who don't know, so the wall of awful is like before you do any task, there is a wall of awful that is some height. And anxiety, fear of failure, the last time I did it didn't go, whatever it is, and you got to climb over the wall. When it comes to sensory stuff, my wall just isn't that high. It isn't not there, but it's low enough, and I've climbed over it enough times in my life that I know how to climb it. So it's still super stressful. I don't like doing it. Here's a really good example. Future Raja. Current Raja is moving from New York to Los Angeles.
So you're in New York right now?
I'm currently in New York, but I'm leaving New York in a month. Moving to Los Angeles.
Okay.
Right, next phase of my career. Future Raja is gonna have to spend thousands of dollars on furniture because current Raja has decided it's prohibitively expensive to ship everything. Right?
That makes sense.
Shopping for thousands of dollars of furniture, that is the definition of masculine SE gathering. I am literally gathering sensory things for myself, right? That's like definition of consume.
Yes.
Right? Of sensory consume.
Yes.
Am I looking forward to this? No. But like, I have to do it because I want a couch.
Right.
Right? But also, my wall of awful when it comes to SEFI consuming, it isn't that high relative to other walls, right? So like maybe it's a higher wall than like blasting or sharing my feelings, but it's not so insurmountably high that ignoring it feels like a good idea.
Why don't you just move on a U-Haul across the USA?
Even that's more expensive. So let's talk about sensory consume.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Sure.
So I decided to move, what are we in now? We're at the end of April, beginning of May. I knew that I wanted to leave New York a year ago. The way that the lease worked out wasn't the right time to move. I almost moved in December and broke my lease, and I was like, no. Give it one more shot, try to do the things. And then really in mid-February, I was like, I'm out. Bye. Basically right after that, I started to do research. I knew I was going to LA for about 10 days at the beginning of April, and but like I was gonna be leaving New York City no matter where I went, right? So basically, for all of March, my process was do my research. I researched moving companies. I researched how much the resale value of my things was. I researched U-Hauls. I did a lot of sensory research consuming precisely because I didn't want to get caught out of position. Because if I hadn't done that, if I had let this wall of awful that really isn't that high, Raja, if I had let that get in my way, then future Raja would have been just miserable. So it's being able, and again, this is just my feminine NI, the non-linear time, the past, present, future existing in one space, that's like me in a nutshell, right? So I'm always playing this game. And I was like, no, you know what? For the sake of future Raja, you just have to do as much consuming as you possibly can. And by doing all the consuming, I'm like, okay, great. I've consumed as much as is reasonable. This is what the data says makes the most sense. If I'm wrong, I'm still wrong, but at least I did my homework.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
That's you doing the good work that most INTJs will never do, I guess.
Well, look, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think that the world is just different now.
Yeah.
I think that 10 years ago, even 5 or so years ago, many INTJs would never have even thought of doing that, which is again why I thought I was an ENTJ back in the days, because this apparent comfort with control and chaos was really prominent, right? But I think the world's just different now, man. Like, I don't think I see people who used to be all in on their saviors, and they were kind of plugging along, but like by the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, just because of like the socio-political climate, the technological climate, all of their shit is breaking down so fast. So fast. And I think that a lot of the people are starting to get to a point really quickly where they're like, I have to start doing demon work. Like, I don't have a choice, because the other option is, call 1-800-GOT-JUNK and have them trash my thousands of dollars worth of guitars and collectibles and like, and you're like, I think people are realizing the consequences of their actions and the consequences of the patterns they've allowed themselves to fall into. And at least in my circle, have started to take really active steps to not get caught out by those anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Because I think, like, even for me, using my demon SI, right? Like, when I explain things to people very ST clear, I seem to get through them better. Because before I would just kind of like, I don't want to talk about it because, I don't want to blast. Mm-hmm. But then the more I used it, the more my credibility went up. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, you know what? I hate it so much, but I think I need to learn how to use it if I want to be credible. Because otherwise I just come across as full of shit if I don't.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And here's the thing for you, right? So you're balanced, right? So you're Savior NF, Demon ST.
I have demon sleep. So it's not my blast that's the problem, actually. But my blast is third, so it's still a demon.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So are you lead consume?
I'm lead consume according to my personal typing, but
great.
David Shan thinks I'm play, so. All
right, fair enough. But like you have any at the top and some sort of blast as some sort of demon, right?
It's my third function. My third animal, yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, I think that irrespective of anything, like, yes, investing in your demons is going to make you seem really credible and, well-rounded, whatever. But I think specifically that balance between ST and NF is really, really big, man. Again, I have Savior ST and Demon NF sleep. And I have the opposite problem with you. I'm so sensory clear all the time that a lot of the times what would happen in the past is if it's not backed up by any NF, people are like, I don't give a shit. I have no idea why I should, like, I don't know what your internal priorities are. Like, you're giving me a lot of sensory specific, you're talking to me like I'm a cop, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I need the hippy dippy bullshit if I'm going to connect with you.
Yeah.
Gotta have both. You gotta have both.
Yeah. Well, for me, I already do a lot of the hippie NF bullshit, and I do a lot of NT stuff too.
Sure.
But I need to reinforce my ideas with facts. Otherwise, people think I'm full of shit. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. Nowadays, you can just get called on that really easily.
Yeah.
Like, here's this great idea. It's why I have this theory. When was the last time you saw on Facebook, whatever, a TED Talk be shared really seriously?
I haven't seen one lately.
It's been a minute, right? Because the whole thing of TED Talks is it's this like abstract, thinkery sort of, here is this idea about this perspective on the world that nobody's considered before, right? Well, 2010, 2011, 2012, that was really important.
Yeah.
But now we're like, we've reached a critical mass of ideas. Everybody has an idea. Everybody has the same idea. It's really hard to come up with a truly novel idea.
Yeah.
So if you're not immediately backing that up with ST, they're like, okay, I'll just find someone who does.
Right. Well, even a few days ago, I had an SI tidal wave, right? So I have a travel blog that I run. I've been running it for 4 years now, and I was doing I made a blog post on which credit cards you should get that will give you the most amount of points. Now,
Cool.
I didn't realize that like within the last 3 months there was a change in the details where the amount of minimum spend requirements has gone up. So
Sure.
I posted my article on different forums where people like to collect frequent flyer miles for traveling.
Sure.
One guy went ballistic on me, absolutely ballistic. He said, "You're a fucking scammer. You're telling people that the minimum spend is only 3,000 when it's actually 5,000. I don't have respect for people like you." And I was like sitting there, like I was like, "What the hell is this guy like exploding over?"
You're so aggressive right now. That's so aggressive. I'm not being an asshole. I just did not respect the demons. Calm down.
Well, I just didn't realize they changed it within the last 3 months, because
Sure.
it's recent, right? So he thought I was being a scammer. So I was sitting there and I said, okay. I had a feeling the guy was an EJ. So what I did was like, okay, I said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I'm not detail oriented. I'm gonna make the changes right now. But that's not very nice of you to say that. And your respect for me means nothing because you are a horrible human being. And that got him, right? Because he's like an EJ, right?
Okay, hitting where it counts. My goodness. Okay.
Yeah, but then I was like,
my goodness.
well, no, he was right, but I'm a double decider, so I knew he was right that I was where I was in the wrong. But I thought he was being a jerk, and people started, kind of like taking my side to. They're like, hey man, I think he was an honest mistake with the details. You could have just told him to him in a nicer way. You could have said, hey, you made a mistake on here. Can you fix it? Because you don't want me misleading people, right?
Right. Like the way that conversation goes is if you notice a mistake like that, be like, hey man, I saw this error.
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't mean anything by it, but this actually changed recently. You should update it just so that people think you're not trying to be sketchy.
Yeah. But I think that masculine external decider, that's why he was, punching me super hard,
I have no time for this. I have no time for that bullshit. I have no time.
Yeah.
Often, often.
Anyways, dude, so you're a double decider since we're already in this topic.
Sure.
And everyone kind of knows what double decider is already. You know, you have a relative balance between self and tribe. Now, David Shan said that double deciders, unlike double observers, have problems with fear. So can you talk about areas in your life where you kind of held yourself back because there was a fear that kind of prevented you from taking the right action to go where you want in your life?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay. Trying to think of the best way to frame this. Because this isn't a public forum. I'm going to say that 80% of my problems in life have to do with relationships.
Okay.
And have had to do with relationships ever since I was like 15, 16. It's been really interesting to sort of watch myself sort of get over one hump, come up against another one, get over that one, right? And sort of like, I've never felt like I was making the same mistake, but I was making all of the different possible mistakes in this one arena. And so framing it around the idea of fear is actually really interesting for me as an IJ because, you know, it's missing information problems, right? If
Right.
you're as the theory goes, if you're a double decider, single observer at the top, those missing information problems are scary. Now, pain trumps fear, so I'm still going to have smaller tribe drama might feel just as bad as bigger observer drama, right? Again, because the pain makes it, a smaller problem seem a little worse. But yeah, man, it isn't fear of rejection, and that's what I try to explain to people, right? My reasoning for not making a move, asking somebody out, whatever, it really has never had anything to do with other human rejecting my identity. It has had everything to do, rightly or not, to do with this, like, okay, we have this relationship. What are the social consequences of me doing this action and it not being received well? Right? And this fear, right? So like the fear would come in two flavors. There would be the fear of, I ask her out, we're in class together, now she thinks I'm an asshole, it ruins the vibe, it ruins our friendship, it ruins the vibe of the class, we gotta be in class or rehearsal together, and then she knows that I like her, and then it's a mess, right? None of that is actually true. Like, it's fine, calm down, you're fine.
It sounds like it's just you.
Right? You're like, I feel like you're inventing problems for yourself.
Exactly, that's what it sounds like.
Not be the worst.
Yeah.
Right? So like that's certainly one flavor of fear. That was.
So are you forever single then? Is that what you're trying to say?
I am basically.
Okay.
Look, I've dated people.
Yeah.
But that goes into the second kind of fear.
Okay, let's see or hear it.
Right? So the second kind of fear is this, like, it's my very astute roommate freshman year pointed out.
Yeah.
He was like, dude, you're not afraid she's going to say no. You're afraid she's going to say yes. Whoa.
I understand what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah.
But, and I was like, that was astute and aggressive, and I don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
The more I really thought about it, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Why is yes just as scary as a no?
Yeah.
Well, yes is scary because of what that means for my life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have always taken relationships really, really seriously. For better or for worse, the idea of being in a committed monogamous relationship, something I want to have, like, that's a very important thing to me. I want to fall in love, whatever.
Yeah.
So doing that, and sort of you're getting to know somebody, you go on a couple of dates, declare your intentions, whatever, you're transparent. Cultural norms around that interaction have shifted quite a bit since I was a kid. I think it's, easier in some ways, harder in others, but regardless, there's still that like declaration, that opening up, that vulnerable, whatever you want to call it, right? And if she says yes, like there's no take backsies. You can't be like, hey, I think you're pretty rad. We should do the thing, right? Like once you put it out there and she's like, oh my God, yes, you can't be like, actually, I was just seeing what you would say. Bye. Right? It doesn't work like that, dude.
Well, you can, but you'll be an asshole.
Right. Right? No, I'm off it. That's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I was always really cognizant of that. And so I knew that anytime I was in a position to really be forthright with somebody or be really honest about my feelings and the you matter to me, like that declaration.
Yeah.
Those are like real stakes. No, I don't think that they're entirely fake, right? And so I was always really careful about who I let myself feel that way about and who I expressed those feelings to, because I knew that like if she says yes and we both decide that we want to be in it, there is a chance that our lives take a completely different trajectory together.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
And look, there is absolutely a component, at least for me, of the like, I wanted to be an actor. I was very, very career driven, career motivated. Not only, I think that part of that was innate, and I think a lot of that was environmentally rewarded. In the arts community, in performing arts community, musical theater community, it's very much about hustle all the time. There's this narrative of you have to sacrifice relationships and you don't get to go to weddings anymore, and your entire existence has to be built around the pursuit of this career that you ostensibly love more than anything else in the world.
Yes.
And so that was very much like, do you fit into this life of mine? And for better or for worse, many of the decisions I made were based on, I don't see you fitting in to this idea that I have for my life. Now, let me say to the viewers at home, I'm not condoning this behavior because that's like sociopath talk, right? That's treating humans like they're things. Don't do this. I'm trying not to do this, right? So I'm not saying this is good, but I'm just saying like that was absolutely a pattern of mine that was based in this fear, to bring it back to your original question, of I am afraid that this human coming into my NIFI life is going to derail this thing that I believed was more important than anything else. And now I'd like to think that I'm at a point where I can sort of look at that fear and be at least a little bit more detached about it.
Well, it's really silly because a lot of it's assumptions, right? Like let's say you get in a relationship with somebody and maybe the person that you're dating is 100% supportive of what you're doing, and she understands that, you know what, if you're going to be obsessed with whatever you're doing, she 100% supports you because she wants you to not have any regrets with your life. So in that case, it's you made it up in your head that,
yes,
she's going to pull you away from your goal, from your NI big picture, long-term plan, when that's an assumption that you think is going to happen. You don't know. You don't really know.
Right.
Yeah. So I want you to talk about your masculine FI, because it sounds like your masculine FI is actually your biggest demon, if anything.
Ding, 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 ding.
So let's talk about that, because
let's talk about it.
It sounds like it's your worst one, yet it's masculine, and then you're also lacking that fourth function, that fourth animal sleep, right? So let's talk about that. That's something that seems to be your biggest problem in your life then.
This is why people have so much difficulty typing me as an IJ.
Well, this is why people would think you're an ENTJ, because it would make sense. So let's hear it.
Every time. So it's weird, man, because behaviorally, and again, World Musical Theater, it's all EJIP. That's the whole game.
Yeah.
So I've sort of learned how to play that game badly. But
okay.
I'm not good at the game. It's why I didn't have a musical theater career, if I'm being honest. Like, let's be real. Yeah. It's not that I wasn't good enough, it's that that wasn't a natural game for me to play.
Yeah.
So my masculine FI has been really interesting because to the extent that we want to ascribe, right, like gender essentialism to the functions, whatever, right? Yeah. I have so much feminine energy. I lead with my femininity. It's a big part of my identity. Like this hat, right? I don't shop for apparel in the men's section of places because I don't like it. I went to LA. I wanted to get a hat because I like UCLA. I looked at the men's hats and I was like, this is bullshit. Like, I don't want your block letter, boring square UCLA. I was like, I want the pretty pink one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. I don't know if you can see my apartment, it's a lot of neutral tones and, this like really dark red chair and, this tan couch. And a lot of that.
And you're not wearing the INTJ black sweater.
Yeah, right. No, we're in the right. Well, but like, what I'm getting is that there's so many messages that I got as a straight male who grew up around a lot of white people.
Yeah.
You are given a really clear roadmap and rubric for how to behave.
Yeah.
You just are. And it's been really interesting, at least for me internally, to sort of take that information in, understand how it applies to me, right? Because it isn't that I want to go so far in the opposite floofy direction, because that's not authentic either, right? As we were talking about earlier, like that masculine sensory, like that's a part of who I am. And when I don't bring that to the table, then I run into different kinds of problems of like people thinking they're getting one thing and they're not. But the masculine FI is like, I've been so like in some ways, right? Men in our culture are rewarded for being like strong internally, right? That's sort of like, I think of Battlestar Galactica as sort of the quintessential masculine FI thing, right? Like the hardy sailor who, keeps his feelings on the inside, and these are the things that matter to him, and it's just about doing what works for the tribe, right? So in a lot of ways, I recognize those tropes, and those tropes are really authentic to me. But there is that gender component of like when people expect you to be really yielding all the time, and when you have created your public persona and your public identity around being feminine, for lack of a better term, right? Whether that means visually feminine, emotionally accommodating, going out of your way to do emotional labor for people, doing, right, like that sort of a thing, like happy, helpful dude. When they meet up against that inner core of masculine FI, that can be really scary to show somebody. Because not only are you showing them a demon, you're showing them a demon that in some ways negates everything you've shown them before. And so my big, journey of growth with that on a number of levels is two things. The first thing is understanding people don't want your information, they want you. That's been a big mantra of mine lately. And being like, nobody cares about your reasons because your reasons come from a place of what can you do for other people, right? Like how can other people use you in some ways, right? So nobody really cares about that. What they want to see is your identity, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second is understanding that it's not about negating everything that came before. It's a balance to that. It's like the natural counterbalance to, yeah, if you're going to be really flexible with your reasons, and if you're going to be this like reason machine, can like reason your way through anything, you know, reasonable was something that I always really tried to be as a boss or an authority figure, right? If you're reasonable all the time, the more reasonable you are up front, the more intractable you are on the back end. So it's learning how to, tighten up front, right? And be a little bit more masculine in your extrovert decider with your reasons, so that so that you can be more accommodating with, your FI, right? Or if people do come up against your masculine FI, they're not shocked by it, right? It feels like a complementary balance rather than a fight.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, dude. I got the two last questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up. First one is, what kind of message would you give to people who are like glass lizards like you? Maybe INTJ, maybe not, but they're not struggling with their fourth function. Like they don't like it, but they can use it. But they're struggling with a third one like you. So what kind of advice would you give them that they can take away and actually use?
Here's my biggest piece of advice. This may look, depending on whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey of personal growth, right? You may not be at the stage yet. You may not want to, whatever. So it's really tempting. So if you're not a glass lizard, you can learn a lot and get a lot of mileage from just observing and studying and behaving like you're the opposite type, right? So our buddy Dave got a lot of mileage out of being like, I need to be an ESFP, right? And leading with his last function helped him a lot, and that was great. But once I started to do that, after about 4 hours, I was like, okay, no, I got this whole ESFP thing, we're fine. And it's recognizing that the axis you have to fight on is by not just leading with that first function, right? So like for me, if I'm, INTJ missing sleep, right? It isn't just putting work into my FI. It isn't just that. It's when you invert the function stack like that and you're like, I am going to be an ISFP and sort of like play the ISFP game, it forces a balance with control and chaos, and it forces you to be able to play the tribe and self game, right? So a lot of the glass lizards I've talked to and sort of in my own personal life is they feel like they're always growing and they're always stressed and they're always like, everything's just a little hard, right? And that's true. That's like part of the glass lizard thing, is that you're not going to have those enormous extremes of like, everything is perfect, everything is terrible, right? You're going to be living in that gray area a lot. So just like get cool with that. But I think that your biggest struggle if you're a glass lizard is playing the observer versus decider game. I think that once you start to play that single decider game, so for me it's like the IP game of like, this is what matters to me, and sort of forcing those tribe issues to really bubble to the surface and deal with them, that's where I think that a lot of glass lizards are going to see some major growth.
That's so weird, because like you're a double decider that kind of like don't want to be a double decider. It's so odd.
Well, look, here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's super useful.
It is.
And again, like the way that I made any traction at all in the musical theater community was that I was playing a different game than them. Is that they were playing the EJIP game, and so I was seen as this like very zen, knowing, like detached person.
Yeah.
And that got me a lot of respect and a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
But as far as actually moving myself forward, the fact that I wasn't able to then switch and play the EJIP game at all, that's what was standing in my way.
I see.
So
That makes
yeah,
sense.
you just gotta fight on a different axis.
And my last question for you, dude, is I'm an ENFP and I have functions that you don't have. So do you have any questions for me about like functions that I have that you don't have? Like I have NE and SI, for example. Like
Yeah. So here's, I guess, my big question to you
yeah.
is, how do you decide on a best course of action? Because so like my NI, it might gather patterns, it might look at a couple different possibilities, but ultimately I want to pick a thing, right? But NE is a lot of that is about new ideas, right? And generating a lot of new ideas. So like, what is your process like between, I have this great idea, here's how I'm going to stick with it, rather than jump to another thing?
I have to use my FI to filter everything. So like right now in my life, I'm doing 3 different areas right now, but I'm not deviating from those 3 different areas. So I have a travel blog and I love traveling. So that's kind of like one of my passions, right? So I have a travel blog and I gather all the information about travel and then I filter it in that area. And then I use my SI to, archive my information in my blog essentially. Same thing for ENFP mail right now, kind of how we're doing this stuff. Like I love, typology. I love, MBTI, ops, and Enneagram. So that's for me, this is like my passion. So that's why I'm doing it. So when I gather information, it's for that topic. And then last but not least, I work in the fitness industry. That's like my day job, right?
Dope.
Same thing. So, but like, so you can see I have multiple interests because I have NE for sure, but like I do narrow it down to three
That's
areas.
a really good, right? So you need to use, right? So like, because my NI, it's naturally going to want to pick a right course of action.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to wonder, what if I were to use my FI as a filter for my NI, right? And sort of do it that way.
Well, that's how most INTJs do it. So you're like,
yeah, right?
I don't know why you're not doing it. Like, no shit, man.
Like, what if I used, hang on, what if I used all of my functions?
Yeah.
All right, touche.
You have to run in a huge like circles to get there,
Right, because my TE and my SE is like, okay, what's practical? What makes the most sense?
Yeah.
Whereas like, what do you like?
Yeah, what do you like? And can you see yourself doing it long term? Like that's the question, right?
Like, that's it. That's the whole game.
That's it, man. That's it. It's like it's not magic. But anyways.
Yep.
So Raja, man, I'd love to talk to you longer. Maybe we could do another one in the future. But
sure.
Thanks for doing this, like spontaneously last
minute. Of course, man. Happy to do it.
And finally, it was great to finally get a chance to talk to you.
Likewise.
All right, this is going to pause the recording, so I'll just say bye to everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Raja.